Okay,
Okay.
good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Assalamu alaikum, Hashim, and assalamu alaikum, Mohammad. I'm a huge fan of your work, actually. I came before in this stream, I think before Ramadan. I think that time the demolition of Babri Masjid, you have a subject, I think, before that. And today, I just want to know, there is a question in my mind every time. About Islamophobia. So may I know why Islamophobia is happening in this world? Because you can see a lot of news from India. Recently, Mr. Modi has said against Muslims that Muslims should have been out of this country, and the wealth of Hindu people, Congress is going to distribute among Muslims. So these kind of things are getting very worse in these recent times. Also, there are a lot of things happening in Palestine as well. So, may I know the real reason behind Islamophobia in these days?
Okay, Brother Mohammed, you want to take that up?
It's not on topic, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, so we're calling the Muslims now, so obviously they're going to agree with the topic.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to go.
So Brother Afsal, so first of all, this is quite a challenging question, because why? I mean, you live in the same world that I do. You read the same news probably that I do.
Enjoying your
And for
chai.
you, alhamdulillah, yeah. I mean, I have a drink as well, but subhanallah. So, so I'd like to understand is where this question is coming from. Is it because you yourself have not experienced Islamophobia, or is it because you've noticed it for the first time, or is it some other reason? Where does this question come from?
This discussion is coming from because of a lot of things has happened against me as well. As a Muslim, I have worked in UAE as well for 5 years, and I have I get to have some experiences there regarding Islamophobia in recent days. And also in India, right now the position of Muslims are very bad actually. Because of this BJP Modi government, they are spreading a lot of hatred against Muslims. So this thing, what they are doing is 80-20, because 20% of India's population is as Muslims, and 80% is Hindus. So what they are saying is the current affairs is going between 80-20 against Muslims. Whatever.
So you mentioned Modi about his recent hate speech.
Yeah, correct.
I read about this. Yeah.
So he's saying that Muslims are going to capture Hindus, which is not at all possible. How can 20% of Muslims going to capture 80% of Hindus? It's not at all possible. But he is telling like that, and people are believing this. That's my concern. And also, we can see a lot of things happening in Palestine as well against Muslims. So wherever I go, I feel these Islamophobic things in my country as well. Wherever I go outside, there also I can feel this Islamophobia. So I think a lot of time that why they are like that, because I don't have any problem with the Hindus or Christians or any other community, but why these specific communities have problem with Islam or Muslims? That's my question.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. So first of all, I think we need to first of all separate out Islamophobia, which is the irrational hate of Islam, from another two very similar emotions, which is bigotry and racism. Okay, so bigotry and racism and Islamophobia are actually three very different things. Now, when we talk about, for example, the Palestine issue, Palestine is the home of Christians and Muslims, and historically also native Arabic Jews that used to be there, right? So what is going on there isn't specifically only against Muslims, because churches are also being damaged, Christians are also dying, and Muslims, of course. I mean, who happen to be the majority in that particular piece of land. So this is not what I would call intrinsically Islamophobia, right? This is a political situation more akin to racism, because it's essentially a race war. You know, our race is superior to your race, and we need to make sure that your race is not here anymore. So let's understand that first of all. Secondly, I think the history of Islamophobia. I mean, I find it quite strange that you know, you're clearly an educated individual, you know, well spoken, that you haven't sort of experienced this in any way until very recently, because the history of Islamophobia, if I was to tell you, if you read Edward Said, for example, and Orientalism, and other books of that ilk, this particular type of Islamophobia, which is a hatred of Islam, started in the 9th and 10th centuries, when the West went into the Orient, as it were, and discovered this other religion that claimed biblical prophets, and they couldn't believe that somebody else could do this independently of Christianity, or at least, you know, the version of Christianity they had developed by the 9th, 10th century. And so, you know, the Crusades, you know, year after year from the 10th, 11th century onwards, you had Crusades going in. Those were Islamophobic wars. So when you hear about Islamophobia, it's not a new thing.
No. I just want to interfere. During the Crusaders, I think they have also targeted Jews as well, right?
Right, but you got to remember the journey started because they wanted to displace the Muslims from Jerusalem. This was the purpose. Now the problem was the people that they acquired or convinced to join this particular troop that was traveling down to Jerusalem were basically uneducated. In modern parlance, we would call them uneducated ruffians. Basically, whoever wanted to come along to fight. And as they went down, basically anybody that wasn't in their group was basically open to being killed. So you could be another Christian, they would kill you. You could be a Jew, they would kill you. You could be anybody that was not part of their troop that looked different to them, and they would kill you. Basically, it was a mob. It was mob violence, right? Dressed up in this sort of facade. So Islamophobia is not new. Now, why, you know, so for you to see it recently, I find that quite strange. Third point, the uptick politicizing or weaponizing racism under the umbrella of a Islamophobic rhetoric is a political game. Okay? Because we know many people in India of Hindu origin, of non-Muslim origin, that have been living together in the same village, in the same locality for hundreds of years, and they've never had a problem, right? So
Yes.
it is not intrinsic that Islamophobia is a thing because you happen to come from two different faiths. So where does this hatred come from? It is a politicization of a racism, a racist hatred. A racist hatred. It's getting too late. My words are getting muddled up. Racist hatred that is dressed up, aimed at a particular group, and then politicized and weaponized. Now, if you actually look at the Muslims there, you know, what I would say is, how many years does somebody have to live in a region before they are recognized as being native? You know, how many generations? I mean, is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 20, 30? How many generations does it take? Right? Because
Yes.
the Muslims that have been in that region have been there for the last 700-800 years.
Correct.
So what do you call them? Do you call them Indian, or do you not call them Indian anymore? I mean, so to say, you see, you can't call it racism because they're all Indian, right? But
Correct.
it is racism dressed up in Islamophobia and then politicized and weaponized. And then you always find groups who are enticed, like those, the crusader mob violent types. They exist in all societies, who are roused by some political slogan, and all they really want is violence. I mean, it doesn't matter what the slogan is; they're looking for violence, and they just need an excuse to be violent. And so this happens to be the latest slogan of the year, and they will rally behind it. And if it's not here, they will go looking for it somewhere else. And there are obviously another group of individuals typically who are, let's say, not very well educated, not very well informed, and there are others who will use them as tools, essentially, to carry out their own personal agendas. And so what I would say is it's not an uptick, brother. It is simply a continuation of a general, deliberate dislike and hatred for Islam that has been happening since Islam was revealed. So it's just a continuation of that same history. It's just that it reappears in different colors and different contexts, depending on whoever wants to be the latest bigot and whoever wants to be the latest racist.
Understood. But one of my specific question is, if you tell someone, if you tell Hashim that there is a Muslim there and Hashim should have been go there and hate him, how could Hashim, how could you control his brain? Actually, every human being has an intellectual ability Allah has given, right? So what more do you?
I agree. Look, motivation and influencing people. Different people are influenced by different things. Your level of education, your level of understanding, your level of current situation in your life. Maybe you happen to come from. Let me give you an example. So, in North America, for instance, as you know, sorry, not North America. Let's use Africa as an example. So, as you know, in South Africa, until 1985. And the years before that, there was a regime of apartheid in South Africa, right? Now, you would say, how could somebody who is well educated, comes from a well-schooled background, white, privileged, how could they be taught to hate the natives of that country? And yet it happened, right? It happened because this is the history that we now read about and know that it happened. So I reverse the question. How did apparently well-educated, civilized individuals believe that this other community that is their native is somehow below them and less than them? It is the same. It is the same analogy. It's the same not analogy, parallel that is going on here. People are being influenced either politically or monetarily or some other issue to convince them that the other side is not human, less than human. So this process of dehumanization, this process of creating it's called otherization in sociology and sort of politics. This idea of making this other group the out group, to coin a phrase, the outcast, right? As soon as you outcast them from the in group and they become the out group and they become the other, they become dehumanized, all of a sudden you can now objectify them. You can treat them as an object, like a thing. And when you treat people as a thing, they're no longer humans. So therefore, this natural inclination to be guilty, this sort of natural warning system that Allah has instilled within you, all human beings, that no longer operates. Because in the same way that you have no issue with cracking a rock with a hammer, right? Because a rock is a thing. When you have dehumanized an entire group and you've made them into objects and things, you have essentially given permission to the in-group to treat the other group as an object. And this is the real racist hatred that goes on across all races. Hitler did exactly the same thing in history. The same thing happened in pretty much in North America when they went in and absolutely annihilated the Native Americans that were there. 93% of the Native Americans were destroyed. I think it was like when they arrived there were yeah, I don't remember the numbers, but almost 93% of the native Indians were annihilated because the colonizing nations essentially said these people are less than animals. So
Absolutely. I think it's a trend which we see wherever there is some sort of dictatorship or some sort of power maniacs out there, megalomaniacs. So if you look at, for example, Muhammad mentioned Hitler. During the time of Hitler, there was majority of this white Aryan race. And what Hitler did was, you guys are the pride of the nation. Remember, they were the majority.
Mm,
Dictators want control of the majority. So what they do is they first build them up, saying that they are the best. They are the ones who stand out against all the others. You are the superior, everyone else is inferior. So the victimization comes next. We are the victims. The self-pity, and then they make someone a boogeyman, a target. In the case of Hitler, it was mainly the Jews and the gypsies and so on, the minorities at that time. And so, because of this victimization and self pity, they say that, okay, these guys are being, oppressing us, or they have been taking all our wealth, taking all our riches. So they are the ones who we have to get rid of, or displace them. And then comes the um, the solution to that: the Messiah, the Savior, who was Hitler.
mm,
He'll be the one who you have to vote for in order to bring about peace, harmony, and upliftment of the population and the country at large. And then
mm,
this is how they start bombarding you with propaganda, saying that if you vote for us, we will provide the solution. We will get rid of these guys who are the main cause and the obstacle and the root problem in our society. And hence, they somehow manage to, create a Holocaust of millions of
mm,
Jews being massacred, and these guys not even batting an eyelid, you know. And same thing, you see Modi doing the same thing. So if you look from 2014 onwards, this RSS and the Modi brigade, they all were doing same thing. They were trying to empower the Hindus, create a Hindutva community kind of thing, where they take the pride because of their religion, their race, and also, when I say race, I mean mainly the upper caste Brahmins, because they were
mm,
the ones who were the main, what do you say, the fuel for this movement to go forward. So
mm,
Modi started this notion that Hinduism is the main pride of ours. We have had the best culture, the best tradition, the best literature, best art, everything best, without any
mm,
substantiation. There's no need to verify anything. Just make a claim, make these assertions, and you come up with something like the Hindutva pride. That's why you get this Akhand Bharat. We used to rule Bharat all the way from Afghanistan till Indonesia in the southeast. So
mm,
this feeling of pride was built initially. Then they started the victimization and the self-pity, that for thousands of years we have been oppressed by all these invaders, the Mughals, so on. They make, who are the
mm.
victims? Obviously the Muslims, the Christians, the even the Sikhs. They call them, what do they call them, the Khalistanis.
Khalistan.
Yeah, so they became the boogeyman. So who becomes the Messiah now? Modi, RSS. Don't
Mm,
forget, RSS was based on fascism. So these guys were literally the fans of Hitler. Golwalkar, Savarkar, who are the
mm,
founders of RSS. The Rashtriya Swayamsevak, Swayamsang. These Sangis, or the I actually call them the saffron terrorists. Basically, they are the Bagwa terrorists in India, because they were actually banned on 3 occasions by the Indian government for terrorism in India.
yes.
The RSS. Go and check the history. So yes, they once they start this victimization, self-pity, make the boogeyman as these minorities, then comes in Modi as the savior, and he's vote for him. Again, the same strategy, same propaganda spread by Modi as well, about he's going to make India a better nation. You will have a
Mm,
lot of success. You'll have a lot of wealth in terms of development. Guess who is actually getting all this wealth and development? People like the
Ambani.
the Ambanis and the Adanis. all this billionaires actually.
So
They
the
are more rich.
So the
Yes.
short and simple of it is this is political, not religious, in
Yes.
the main, right? It's
No, but they're
dressed-
using
they use
religion
religion
as the main
Trojan
propaganda.
horse, as the Trojan horse, right? So don't sort of confuse the two. And this is why on this channel we stay away from the political side of discussions deliberately, because the political side of the discussions is so much more problematic in terms of getting to the crux of the issues. Because anyway, so let's leave it there, Brother Afzal.
Yeah.
This is why.
I think that's enough politics for today, I think.
That's enough for now, yeah, Brother Afzal. Yeah, that's enough.
Okay, as far Afzal bhai, you take care, inshallah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm actually from Kerala, and I would like to thank you for inviting me to the stream. And Jazakallah.
Thank you for joining.
Take care, brothers.
Bye.
Bye.